Coach, your team is 24th in effective field goal percentage on open shots and actually last on wide open shots. Is that something that concerns you moving forward?
I didn't know that. Thank you for the uplifting stat.
Does it concern you then?
I would say that we've got to knock those down.
Part 2 of the Garden Report here. I'm Jared. We got Julian and Sam still here. Neither of them ditched. No bruises there on Julian's face after the little fight we had there during the break. So let's talk about the Celtics now. Let's focus on what went wrong, because not much went right for them offensively tonight. The big things, at least coming from inside the locker room tonight post-game, was we can't hit open shots. The Cavaliers didn't do a significant job in limiting our shot opportunities, and we need to play harder and take every possession seriously. We being the Celtics, obviously. So, Sam, because I started with you before, the opportunities are certainly there as far as open shots are concerned. That's been happening all season long. They pretty much have not been hitting open shots the entire season long. And we heard your stat that you asked Brad Stevens about off the top, but give us the full rundown there.
All right, so on shots that are the defenders within 3 feet, the Celtics are 24th in the league in effective field goal percentage. And the crazier stat, on wide open shots where the defender is 6 feet away, they are last in the league. So I asked Brad about that, and he really didn't have a response because it's not really something the Celtics can drastically improve moving forward. This is going to be a problem for them all year. And
you can't shoot.
It was a huge problem for them in the third quarter. They went 5 for 22 and 1 for 11 from the three-point line. And they only had 6 points up until about 3 minutes left in the quarter. Then they went on a little bit of a run. But they were just god-awful. And again, I don't really know if it's a question of effort, as Avery Bradley mentioned, or just their inability to shoot. Because I didn't think their shot selection was that terrible, and I didn't think their ball movement was that terrible. They just couldn't make it for an extended period of time. And you're going to lose any game that happens.
Yeah, I have no problem with the effort, really. You hold the Cavs to 89 points. That means that you are putting effort on at least the defensive side of the ball. When it comes to offense, I think that it is more, like you said, lack of shooting and lack of ability. The offense is just more scattered. It doesn't mean that the players aren't trying. I think they're trying. But, there's only so much Isaiah Thomas can dribble around and create. This is what's going to happen. These are, high energy, high effort players. On games that they can get into the paint, they're going to score. When the shot's going down at the same time, that only helps. But I think it's an easier, I want to say fix, but it's not fixable than people think, an easier idea of why the Celtics aren't scoring, and it just comes down to not being able to knock down shots.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics tonight, they went 9 for 32 from deep. They went 28 for 87 from the field.
That's
it's
28
pretty
for
atrocious.
87.
I think the big thing you mentioned was when they get in the paint, they couldn't score tonight. The Celtics, the Cavs have a huge team with Mozgov, Tristan Thompson.
Right.
The
a lot
Celtics,
of length in the paint.
They were 12 or 33 with only 24 points in the paint. And if they can't get in the paint, they're going to have to rely on their outside shooting. And again, we're going to be mentioning this the entire season. It's
other than Amir Johnson, when the Celtics do get into the paint, Sullinger, David Lee, they're big guys, but they don't exactly have the length we just talked about with Mozgov and Thompson. That only makes things more difficult. And David Lee actually wasn't bad tonight. He shot 4 for 8.
He had some nice baskets over Mozgov, too. Over Mozgov
shot the
and
highest
Thompson.
percentage on the team.
David Lee, as terribly as he is defensively, he's good for 8 points a game. You can put him in for a good 5-minute stretch, and he's can make 4 baskets in a row. He still has that offensive ability to attack in the paint. So if Brad Stevens can somehow harness that 5 minutes of David Lee a game, he might have some value.
The thing is, when the Celtics try to get opposing defenses a switch, and they try to take advantage of height differentials like with Kelly, or they try to take advantage of quickness differentials like with Isaiah. But against the Cavaliers, even if somebody switches on you, if you're lucky enough to get a Delly on a big guy, Delly is still an absolute menace defensively. There's not really like a kind of a switch that you can get that gives you a huge advantage. Iman Shumpert could probably cover Yao Ming if he had to for 5 minutes. I mean,
that's
they
the
can
beauty
do everything.
of LeBron, because LeBron can really guard any position, and he's the anchor of that defense, and really he covers up a lot of mistakes. So if the Celtics are going to execute on anything, LeBron's really there just to make the right play, and it's one of the reasons why he's pretty good at basketball.
By the way, I forgot to report this earlier. This is huge news, obviously.
Breaking news on the Garden Report.
Iman Shumpert shaved a 90 into the back of his head, which is his logo. He calls it Logo Man, I think. Tonight was the first night he actually did that on his actual head for a game. So I think I posted a photo of it pregame. Huge news.
With
I'm
a
sorry.
matching jacket
Yes,
for the back of
and
his
he has
head.
the matching jacket hanging in his locker too.
Yep.
But sorry I didn't report that and give that huge breaking news. It's obviously going to change
Any
the NBA
insight
in its
into what
face.
the 90 means? Was he born
It's
in
the year
1980?
that he was born.
He was.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
up.
Shaved it into
You
his
know,
head.
I was born in
It's
1990. I should probably shave
I
a 90
wasn't.
into the back
He
of my
shaved
head.
it into his
I
head and
think
then
you
got
would look
injured
good.
in the game.
Okay, I didn't even tell you guys I wanted to talk about this, but we got to address the Bill Kennedy, Rajon Rondo situation really quickly here.
Okay.
Obviously, it was morally reprehensible on so many levels here. A lot of people are concerned about the fact that a one-game suspension seems light for calling someone a offensive slur that applies directly to them, to their face, especially publicly on international television since it was in Mexico. The situation continues to evolve. I wanted to just hear from you guys your thoughts on the subject. Do you think the NBA should go back and kind of reassess the situation now that Kennedy has made his sexuality public or his sexual orientation public?
I mean, most likely, I would say yes. I haven't given it as much thought as I would have if I knew it was going to be
Sorry
on the
to
show.
surprise you with
no,
this, yeah.
Throw us on the spot. I'm leaning towards yes. It should be revisited. But, you know, one thing that I don't have to think about is that it's just not a good look for Rondo.
Dude, Rondo's beyond
there's-
looks at this point. It really is.
There's rumors that would suggest that, you know, Doc Rivers, members of the Celtics, people around the NBA for the most part, you know, knew about Bill Kennedy's sexuality. And
Well, on a CLNS Radio, when it was the
right,
original
yes,
Celtics Late
yes,
Night
yes,
Show
yes.
podcast interview with Tim Donaghy in 2009, which is actually now starting to make the rounds, this interview,
Right.
Donaghy said that Bill's gay, and obviously that's almost
Essentially
as,
that this is
I'd say it's
known.
probably even worse to out somebody against
Yeah.
their will, which so
Way to
that's
go,
why
Tim
Tim
Donaghy.
Donaghy is known
I saw
as
that
Tim
and I was thinking,
Donaghy.
like, Tim
Yeah.
Donaghy at it again.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But, you know, and
yeah,
that...
I just
go
want to
ahead.
say one
Yeah.
thing on the suspension. I think Bill Simmons tweeted this, and it was just that it was only one game because the NBA's never really suspended a player before for something they've said on the court, and it kind of gets into kind of word policing. They say some really absurd things to each other. It's going to be really
Right.
hard to kind of figure out where to draw that line. Obviously, what Rondo said is not cool in any way, but it's how does the NBA delve into that? It's never really something they've doled out punishments for. So I think that's one of the reasons why we only saw one game.
Well, I kind of would think of the situation as similar to if a white player called a black player the N-word using a hard R. That would, I think, be pretty much the equivalent scenario. I'd imagine the league would come down really significantly on that one, but it probably has happened
I mean,
over the years.
Another thing I would say, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, is whether or not Rondo knew. And that's something that you can't necessarily...
I mean,
Ba-
KG,
something you can't
based on the
necessarily
phrasing
know.
and based on everything we've heard, I think
KG
it's
would
no.
said
sound
Charlie
like he-
Villanueva was called him
Right.
a cancer. Like,
Yeah.
is that going to be a suspendable offense? Like, some of the things KG's reportedly said to players are some of the worst things in the world. Are we suddenly going to start suspending those players?
But they're not epithets necessarily, or slurs necessarily.
Not
which is
necessarily,
usually
but
the
they
line that
could
we
be
draw.
equally as offensive.
It's true.
I mean, I'm sure the things said about players' mothers, if we're going to like start going on that scale.
Well, what KG said about Tim Duncan's mom, that would be at the top of the list. So, yeah. You know, if you're going to trash talk, don't get personal beyond the point of that it's something you wouldn't ever, that wouldn't be acceptable in general society. Don't, just, you know what, Rondo, don't, and if you're sensitive, if your ears are sensitive, please mute your computer right now. Don't be a fucking asshole. I mean, seriously, that was,
Fair enough.
that was bullshit on Rondo's part. And I think you guys have probably met Rondo. I've known Rondo for several years, not personally, but obviously I've talked to him a bunch of times. And he's been a dick at times. And it's something that you accept because, one, of course, if you're a reporter talking to a player, that's something that you're going to deal with.
Yep.
But there's part of the whole mad genius thing where you are kind of okay with him being a jerk or a dick because you respect the mad genius inside of him. But I've had interactions with him where he obviously went over the line, but I didn't really care too much. But this is just like, this is going beyond just kind of being mean to somebody. This is deliberately hurting someone based on some sort of prejudice. And
Totally agree.
And I think enough has come out at this point that it's pretty clear that Rondo was well aware of the fact that Bill was gay.
I would say so.
Yeah. All right. So, light way to end the show. Obviously, chime in on what you guys think. If you want to correct anything that we said, or if you have your opinion on this, please do not say anything homophobic. Please be tolerant. Jesus Christ. We've had talking about something political, and people were calling me a terrorist apologist, which obviously I am. Go Weiss. But that was a joke. So for Sam, for Julian, I'm Jared. This has been the Garden Report on CLNS Radio and Celtics Blog, powered by Grandstand.
Actually, I wasn't able to hear the whole story because I was actually in the game and coach was drawing up the play. But I looked up at the jumbotron and I seen what he'd been through and where he is now. And I think the doctor said he would never walk again, or talk again, or something like that. I looked up there and right from there, it just kind of this game is so much more than basketball. And also seeing he had my shoes on. I designed those shoes for kids with conditions where they're not able to put their own shoestrings, not tie their own shoestrings. And he had a pair on. Those shoes that he had on are made for kids that can't tie their own shoes, and it's just one strap, and they're able to get them on with like one hand or whatever the case may be. And when I saw that, and I saw his story, it was just like, I don't know, I feel like I was a part of him. So, just showing my respect and gave him my shoes, and he was well received by him. It's not for you guys. It's not for the fans. It was for him.